Lily lay where the thunder had left her, half on the gravel shoulder, half in the weeds, rain pouring so hard it felt like needles on her skin. Lightning stitched white seams across the sky. Her legs wouldn't answer. They never did when fear climbed her spine and made everything inside her lock. She tasted metal. Mud pressed cold against her palms. Somewhere beyond the trees a roof peeled, a sign clattered, and the world stank of wet electricity. "Mum?" she tried, but the storm stole the word. Wind flung rain into her eyes. She blinked it back, dragged one elbow forward, then the other. The left wheel of her chair lay twisted in the ditch beside her like a broken wristwatch hand, useless and accusing. She had tried to keep moving when the thunder started to count closer, tried to believe the road would turn into a porch light, a door, a voice. The road had turned into more road. Her fingers found the bracelet on her wrist, a thin silver chain with a tiny heart charm, warm from her skin, even in the freezing rain. She rubbed the charm between her thumb and middle finger the way her mother had taught her. "Find the little beat," Mom used to say. "Feel it like a second heartbeat. That's us." The bracelet didn't fix her legs, didn't stop the sky from splitting, but the pressure of it steadied her breath enough to make the next decision. She curled on her side, pulled her useless knees closer with both hands, and waited for the pain behind her ribs to ebb. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from. Leave your country name in the comments below. And if you love stories about courage, loyalty, and community, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next stories. A shape cut through the curtains of rain. Tall, moving fast. Another shape, lower to the ground, powerful and purposeful, zeroing in on her with a focus that pierced the noise. "Hold!" a man's voice ordered, calm against the thunder. The low shape, a German shepherd, stilled with a tremor of contained energy. The tall shape, broad shoulders under a soaked camouflage jacket, face shadowed by a brim dripping steady, slowed to a kneel at the edge of the ditch. "Hey," he said, and the word wasn't loud, but it carried. "You hurt anywhere I shouldn't touch?" Lily tried to answer. A cough came out. He held back, hands visible, palms open to the rain. The dog waited, unmoving, eyes locked on Lily, with a consideration that felt human. "I'm Noah," the man said, voice steady, breath visible in the cold. "This is Shadow. We're going to get you out of this." Shadow's ear flicked at his name, otherwise he didn't move. "My legs," Lily managed, the syllables splintering as thunder rolled. "They don't—" "I see them," Noah said gently. "You tell me what works and what doesn't. I won't lift until you say." She stared at his hands, square, scarred, wet. The rain made everything shine. His eyes beneath the brim, the dog's muzzle, the heart charm against her skin. The fear that usually locked her chest in a vice loosened a fraction at his patience. She nodded. "Okay," Noah continued. "We're going to roll you toward me. Shadow will hold the chair steady. Then I'll carry you to the culvert where there's cover. Sound good?" She nodded again. He made a small motion with 2 fingers. Shadow flowed forward, braced both front paws against the bent frame of the chair as if anchoring a boat. Noah slid one arm behind Lily's shoulders and one beneath her knees. His forearm was hot compared to the rain. He waited for her breath to sync with his. On the next exhale he lifted, competent, practiced, careful. The pain shot through Lily anyway, bright, then dim. She bit the inside of her cheek and gripped the bracelet so hard the charm pressed a crescent in her palm. Shadow backed away in precise steps, shepherding them toward the dark mouth of a concrete culvert where the rain softened to a drumming roof instead of a drowning sea. Noah set her down on his folded jacket. "You're safe," he said. For the moment. Shadow lay at her hip without being told, a warm barrier against the cold. He angled his body so spray hit him first. He smelled like wet fur and something clean underneath, oil, soap, the field. Lily buried her fingers behind his ear, found dense fur, and felt heat return to her hands. Before we do anything else, Noah said, I need to know your name.
Lily,
she whispered. The thunder chose that moment to clap straight overhead. She swallowed the flinch. Shadow didn't flinch at all. He only flicked his eyes toward the sound and back to her. Hi, Lily, Noah said. You're doing great. He reached to the small pouch on his belt, tugged out a space blanket, and shook it open. The foil crackled like a tame version of the storm as he tucked it around her shoulders and hips, careful not to jostle. Warmth first, then we figure our move. He angled his body to block the wind and looked past her, scanning the road. Even in the gloom he seemed to count things, distance to the next tree line, the slope of the ditch, the way water pooled near the culvert mouth. He touched his throat mic, spoke a few words Lily couldn't hear under the rain. Then he switched gears, attention back to her. Any head hits, dizzier than a storm should make you? He asked. She shook her head. My chair. She nodded toward the ditch. It broke. We'll fix or replace it, he said. First we fix you. The certainty in his voice built a small shelter inside her. Thunder rolled further away. Lightning stitched a ragged hem on the horizon. Rain still fell, but that first murderous intensity had become something survivable. Noah peeled off a glove and turned his hand upright. A small locket hung from a cord around his wrist, half hidden by wet sleeve. He thumbed it once unconsciously and then seemed to remember himself, tucking it back with a quick, embarrassed motion. Lily caught the movement, the almost secret gentleness of it. She lifted her wrist a fraction, letting the rain clean the little heart charm. My mom's, she said. He nodded, reading everything in the 2 words. Mine too, he said softly, touching the hidden locket again. Different story, same anchor. Shadow's head lifted. Noah's eyes followed instantly. A branch snapped somewhere up the washed-out road, a sound too clean to be rain. Noah's entire frame seemed to listen. He gave a minute signal with his left hand. Shadow shifted from comfort to guard in a heartbeat, muscles tight, eyes bright, not a sound wasted. Noah eased forward, just far enough to peer beyond the culvert lip. What he saw made him relax by degrees. Power line, he murmured. Wind took it, not people. He settled back, the tension in his shoulders going from iron to rope. He checked Lily's face. Her lips had color again. Her hair lay plastered to her cheeks in brown ropes. Mud smudged her chin. The space blanket reflected a little light into her eyes, so he could see them. Steady now, wary, but no longer drowning. I'm going to splint one wheel enough to roll, he said, nodding toward the chair. Then I'll carry and Shadow will guide. There's a maintenance shed 1/2 mile down, a dry roof at least. Can you keep the blanket tight while I work? She pinched the foil close. He slid back into the rain, boots planting without a splash, and hauled the chair onto the culvert lip. Shadow remained pressed against Lily like a heated wall, eyes never leaving Noah until the man lifted a hand and made a lazy circle. Watch her. The dog's tail tapped once against Lily's hip, as if to say, I am. His breathing was slow and heavy. She matched it, because matching someone else's rhythm was easier than wrestling with her own. Noah returned with a length of roadside reflector and a strip of tape from a kit that looked both official and battered. He braced the warped spoke, cinched it, tested the spin. The wheel complained but turned. He looked almost proud of the ugly repair. She'll squeal, but she'll go, he said, like my first truck. Lily smiled without meaning to. The smile surprised both of them. He slid the blanket tighter around her, then paused. We haven't properly met, he said, and somehow made it sound like a polite introduction in a dry room and not 2 people hiding from a storm inside a drain pipe. I'm Staff Sergeant Noah Ramirez. This is Shadow. He thinks he's my boss. Shadow thumped his tail again as if to confirm. Lily rubbed her bracelet once more. The charm felt steady now. Thank you, she said, each word careful, not because she feared they would break, but because she wanted them to land. Noah nodded, a little embarrassed again, which made him look younger than the fatigue in his eyes. He looked to the road one more time, to the dragging wires and the water chalking the asphalt, and then back to her. "We'll move on my count. You'll feel the lift. Tell me if anything hurts in a way that feels wrong." She took a breath, found the other heartbeat, the tiny one in the heart charm, in her memory of her mother's voice. It steadied her enough to make room for something else, a question that wasn't about the weather or her legs, or even the next 100 feet of road. "Why did you stop?" she asked. He didn't pretend not to understand. He glanced at the locket again. "Because someone stopped for me," he said. "And because Shadow wouldn't have let me pass." He touched the dog's shoulder with 2 fingers. Shadow leaned into it, a quick exchange of news and promise. Noah slid his arms under her again. Shadow rose like a sprung wire, already turning toward the broken road, the way a compass knows north. The thunderstorm grumbled, as if unhappy to lose them. 1, 2, Noah counted into her hair. On 3, he lifted. The hurt came again, bright, then softer, and his steadiness carried the rest. He set her carefully into the chair, the makeshift splint, squealing protest but holding. Shadow nosed the footrests into place, then took point, chin low, eyes up. They emerged from the culvert into ripped rain and the sour smell of wet asphalt. Lightning cracked close enough to rattle Lily's teeth. For a beat, the world went white. In that flash, Lily saw everything with knife-edged clarity. Noah's profile, sharp and intent, Shadow's body carved from movement, the maintenance shed down the slope, roof canted, door half off its hinges, and a shape beyond it where the road dipped, a black wedge against the shine that did not belong to any tree or pole. Noah saw it too. He stopped with the chair, one hand on the grip, the other coming up without hurry but without doubt. Shadow's growl was low and certain. Lily's fingers found the bracelet and pressed, a tiny heartbeat answering her own. She leaned forward, rain running into her mouth, and whispered, not sure whether she spoke to the storm or to the man or to the dog or to the charm. "Please." The black wedge shifted. Something metallic clicked. Once, decisive, not thunder at all. Noah's shoulders went still. Shadow slid one paw forward, weight balanced, waiting for the smallest command. The next bolt of lightning did not fall. The night held its breath, and in that held breath the danger shaped itself at the edge of the road, exactly where they had to go. The storm pressed in, heavy and relentless, but Noah barely felt the rain. His whole body had gone still, eyes locked on the shape at the bottom of the slope. Lightning flickered again, and in the flash he saw metal, dark, long, unmistakable, not a branch, a rifle. Shadow's growl deepened, chest vibrating like a drum against Lily's chair. The dog's body stretched forward, tail rigid, ears flat. One whispered command from Noah and he'd launch. But Noah held him back with 2 fingers, steady against Shadow's flank. The figure didn't move. "Stay low," Noah murmured to Lily, voice even, calm. She leaned down instinctively, clutching her bracelet so tight the charm dug sharp into her palm. The storm growled overhead. Rain sheeted down. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the silhouette shifted back into the trees, swallowed by night. Noah didn't breathe until several seconds had passed. He scanned the line of pines, waiting for another flicker of metal. Nothing. Just water and blackness. He touched Shadow's shoulder twice, firm. The growl cut off, replaced by a quick whine of readiness. The German shepherd's eyes never left the tree line. "We move," Noah said. His hand tightened on the chair's handle. Fast, but quiet. The maintenance shed loomed larger as they approached. The tin roof clattered under the rain, the door crooked but open. Noah guided Lily's chair inside first, then swept the shadows with his rifle. Empty. Dust and old oil cans, cobwebs, broken shelves. It smelled of rust and damp wood, but it was shelter. Shadow circled once before lying near the door, muzzle on his paws, ears still twitching at every sound. Noah dragged a crate near Lily's chair and sat. His fatigue finally showed in the slump of his shoulders, the drip of water from his hair into his lap. For the first time since he had lifted her from the culvert, he let himself exhale fully. Lily sat with rain still dripping from her hair, eyes wide. Her legs were twisted awkwardly in the chair, but she didn't seem to notice. Her gaze was fixed on the soldier, as if trying to understand why he had stopped in the first place. "Who was that?" she asked softly. Noah shook his head. Could have been anyone. "Storm draws all kinds. Best we keep moving once it clears." Lily shivered and adjusted the foil blanket he had wrapped around her. Her fingers found the charm on her bracelet again. She rubbed it slowly, like a prayer. Noah noticed. "What's that?" he asked. "My mum's," Lily whispered. "She said as long as I wear it, I won't be alone." Something flickered in Noah's face, something he quickly looked away from. He pulled the locket from under his sleeve, stared at it for a long moment, then tucked it back again. Lily saw. She didn't ask, but she thought about it. Shadow shifted suddenly, ears snapping upright. Noah froze. He signaled still with his hand. Shadow obeyed, but every muscle was taut. A second later, the noise came, footsteps outside, muffled by rain, but heavy enough to echo against the shed's tin roof. Noah rose silently, rifle ready, and pressed a finger to his lips for Lily. She nodded, clutching her bracelet. The footsteps stopped. For a moment, the world was only thunder and rain. Then a voice called through the storm, deep, muffled, impossible to place. "Anybody inside?" Noah didn't answer. His jaw tightened. Shadow's teeth bared in silence. The footsteps moved again, slower this time, circling the shed. Lily's breath quickened. She whispered, "Are they bad people?" Noah crouched beside her. His hand covered hers where it clutched the bracelet. "Listen to me, Lily. Doesn't matter who they are. What matters is you're safe. That's my job now." She swallowed hard. The touch of his hand was steady, grounding. The footsteps faded. Then nothing. Noah waited. A full minute passed. Finally, he lowered the rifle. "Gone, for now." Shadow didn't relax until much later. When the danger seemed past, Noah returned to his crate. He opened a pouch, pulled out an MRE, tore it open. He pushed the package toward Lily first. "Eat. Warm calories. You'll feel better." She hesitated. "What about you?" He smiled faintly. "Shadow and I can share one later. You first." She took a small bite, chewing slowly. The taste wasn't good, but the warmth in her stomach was. Her shoulders lowered a fraction, exhaustion overtaking adrenaline. "You're a soldier," she said after a while. "Used to be," Noah corrected. His eyes seemed far away. "Why aren't you anymore?" The question hung between them, heavy as the rain. Noah didn't answer right away. He stared at his hands, scarred and strong, before finally saying, "Because I lost what mattered most, and when you lose that, the uniform feels empty." Lily didn't understand fully, but she felt the weight in his tone. She looked down at her legs, limp under the blanket. "I know what that feels like." Their eyes met. In that silent exchange, both of them saw something mirrored, loss, and the stubborn spark of survival anyway. Shadow yawned once, a low sound, and laid his head on Lily's lap without asking permission. His fur was still damp, but warm. Lily's fingers found his ear and stroked gently. For the first time since the thunder started, her lips curved into the faintest smile. The storm began to thin, rain shifting from sheets to steady drops. The worst had passed, but Noah's eyes stayed sharp on the shadows. "We'll move at first light," he said. "Safer that way." "Where?" Lily asked. "Somewhere dry," he replied. "Somewhere with people who can help." Her fingers pressed the bracelet again. "Will you stay?" Noah looked at her, really looked. The question struck deep. He thought of the locket under his sleeve, of the face inside it, of the voice he still heard in dreams. "You weren't there, Noah." He swallowed. "Yes," he said firmly, "I'll stay." Her eyes softened, relief loosening her face. She leaned back in the chair, finally letting sleep creep in. Shadow shifted closer to her side, his head heavy against her leg, his tail thumped once, as if promising the same vow. The shed creaked in the wind. Noah stayed awake, rifle across his knees, eyes scanning the doorway. He whispered once to himself, words carried away by the rain. "Second chances." Shadow's ears flicked at his voice, then stilled again. Outside, the storm moved on, but danger had not left, it had only paused. The shed's tin roof sang with the last of the rain. Morning light crept through gaps in the planks, turning the damp air silver. Noah had not slept. He sat with his rifle across his lap, Shadow's steady breathing beside him, eyes scanning the world beyond the door. Lily stirred in her chair. Her blanket had slipped to the floor, and her wet hair clung to her cheek in brown ropes. She blinked awake, dazed, then startled, as she remembered where she was. "You stayed," she whispered. "I told you I would," Noah said simply. Shadow stood, stretched, and padded over, placing his head gently on Lily's lap. She smiled faintly, her fingers finding his ear. Noah crouched beside her. "We moved today. The storm's passed, but we're not safe here." She nodded but looked down at her legs. "They don't work," she admitted softly, as if confessing a crime. "Not since before." Noah waited. "My chair broke weeks ago," she continued. "I fixed it with tape, then rope, then nothing. Yesterday, it gave up. I thought if I dragged it far enough, someone would find me before the storm." Her voice cracked. She turned her face away, ashamed. Noah's jaw flexed. "You survived a thunderstorm in the open," he said firmly. "That isn't weakness, Lily, that's strength." She blinked at him, surprised. He added, quieter, "We'll get you a chair that works. Until then, you've got me." He stood, adjusted the splint he'd rigged on the wheel. It squealed but turned. Then, with Shadow's help, he maneuvered her outside. The world was washed raw. Broken branches littered the road. Puddles mirrored the grey sky. Air smelled of ozone and pine. The storm had stripped everything bare, but in the silence after, even Noah had to admit it felt like a kind of rebirth. He lifted Lily from the chair and carried her across the muddiest patches, setting her back gently when ground grew solid. Her body was light, but the weight of the responsibility pressed heavier than any rucksack he'd ever borne. Shadow ranged ahead, nose low, every few steps glancing back for Noah's signal. When Noah raised 2 fingers, Shadow froze. When he made a circle with his hand, Shadow resumed, scanning like radar. The silent language between man and dog made Lily stare in awe. "You don't even talk," she said, "and he listens." Noah smiled faintly. "Talking's for people. Shadow reads what I mean." "Does he read me?" As if on cue, Shadow trotted back and nudged her hand with his nose. Lily laughed softly, the sound fragile but real. They moved along the cracked asphalt. Hours stretched. Noah carried her often when the chair jammed in ruts, his muscles burning, but he never complained. At midday, clouds broke, spilling weak sunlight over the wet world. They stopped at the edge of a ravine where the road had collapsed in the storm. Noah set Lily on a flat rock and scanned the gap. The bridge was gone, a gash of mud and water between them and the other side. "We'll go around," he said. "That will take forever," Lily whispered. He knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. "Forever is fine, as long as it keeps you safe." Her lips trembled. "Everyone else said I slowed them down. That's why I was left behind." The words hit like a blade. Noah's face hardened. "They were wrong," he said. "And they don't get the last word. Not while I'm here." She blinked rapidly, gripping her bracelet until her knuckles turned white. Shadow stiffened suddenly, ears high. He faced the tree line, body like a drawn bow. Noah followed his gaze. At first, he saw nothing but dripping pines. Then, movement. A flicker of black between trunks, a man-shaped shadow. Noah eased his rifle into his hands. "Down," he murmured. Lily instinctively crouched lower in the chair. Shadow gave a low growl. The figure didn't advance, but it didn't retreat either. It lingered, watching. Noah's mind catalogued everything: distance, wind, cover. He could take the shot, but what if there were more? Firing would give away their position. The figure stepped back into the forest and vanished. Lily's voice trembled. "They're following us." Noah didn't lie. "Maybe. That's why we keep moving." "Are they bad people?" He looked at her, his face unreadable. "Anyone hunting a child in a chair in the middle of nowhere, they're not good." Her hands tightened on the bracelet. "Then, what if you can't stop them?" Noah crouched, resting his hand gently over hers. His voice was low but iron. "I will. That's not a hope, Lily, that's a promise." Shadow pressed close against Lily's chair, reinforcing the vow without words. The detour was long, but eventually they found a narrow crossing, a fallen tree bridging the ravine. Noah tested it, slick but strong enough. He carried Lily first, balancing carefully, Shadow moving across behind them with perfect precision. Once they reached the far side, Noah set her down and exhaled hard. They continued until dusk. Exhaustion hung heavy. When they finally stopped beneath a thick canopy of pines, Noah started a small fire shielded by stones. Lily sat near the flames, Shadow curled against her side. She rubbed her bracelet and whispered, "Do you think miracles are real?" Noah looked at the fire. For a long time he didn't answer. Then he said quietly, "I used to think no. Lately, I'm not so sure." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe this is one." Noah glanced at her, this fragile child, paralyzed but unbroken, clutching hope like armor. And for the first time in years, he wondered if she might be right. The night deepened. Wind whispered through trees. Shadow lifted his head suddenly, ears pricked. Noah was instantly alert, rifle in hand. From the distance came the crunch of boots in snow-softened mud. Not one pair, several. Moving with purpose, Lily's breath hitched. "They found us." Noah's jaw clenched. He pressed a hand against Shadow's flank. The dog went utterly still, a predator awaiting command. "Stay calm," Noah whispered. "We'll handle it." Lightning forked across the horizon again, as if the storm had only paused, waiting for this moment to return. The night smelled of wet pine and smoke. The small fire Noah had built barely glowed, hidden behind rocks, but it did nothing against the sound creeping closer through the trees. Boots, more than one set, careful, deliberate. Noah motioned with 2 fingers, "Stay down." Shadow obeyed instantly, lowering his body, every muscle wound tight, eyes burning toward the tree line. Lily pressed against the base of a pine, the foil blanket crackling faintly as she pulled it higher over her useless legs. She clutched her bracelet so hard the tiny charm dug into her skin. Noah adjusted his rifle, sighting the dark between the trunks. He could feel Lily's shallow breaths behind him, each one like a countdown. The footsteps stopped. Silence stretched long and sharp. "Anybody there?" a voice called, low, rough, unfamiliar. Lily's eyes widened. She looked at Noah, searching for an answer. He shook his head once, slow. No words. Shadow growled, barely audible, vibrating through the earth beneath Lily's palm. Then a beam of light cut across the forest. A flashlight. It swept over branches, tree trunks, mud, and stopped too close to their camp. "Here!" another voice barked. Noah cursed under his breath. He pulled Lily's chair closer, crouching beside her. "They've seen us. Stay quiet. Stay small." She nodded, trembling. "You promised," she whispered. His eyes locked on hers. "And I meant it." The first man broke through the tree line, dark coat, rifle at the ready. 2 more followed. Their boots sank into mud, their flashlights slicing through the shadows. Noah leveled his weapon, breath steady. Shadow pressed against Lily, tail rigid, waiting. "Put it down," one of the men called. "No need for anyone to get hurt." Noah didn't answer. His finger rested light on the trigger, but his eyes never left the three silhouettes. "Got yourself a girl," the leader said, voice mocking. "She's worth something. Hand her over and maybe we let you walk." Lily's heart hammered so loud she was sure they'd hear it. Tears burned her eyes, but she bit them back. Noah's reply came low, cold. "You'll have to kill me first." Shadow's growl deepened like thunder. The leader chuckled. "Could be arranged." The standoff shattered in an instant. One mercenary raised his weapon. Noah fired first. The crack split the midnight. The man staggered, fell into the mud. "Down!" Noah barked. He pushed Lily flat behind the log, shielding her with his body. Shadow exploded forward, a streak of muscle and teeth. He slammed into the second man's arm, dragging the rifle down. The mercenary screamed, twisting, trying to break free. Noah pivoted, fired again. The second man dropped, Shadow backing off with blood across his muzzle, chest heaving. The leader roared, charging forward. Noah turned, but his rifle clicked, empty. "Noah!" Lily cried. The leader raised his gun. Time slowed. Noah reached instinctively for the knife strapped to his belt, but before he could move, Shadow launched again. The dog hit the man square in the chest, teeth clamping his wrist. The gunshot went wild, shredding bark from a tree inches from Lily's head. The two went down hard, man and dog thrashing in the mud. Noah surged forward, knife flashing, yanking the weapon from the leader's other hand. With a grunt, he slammed the man back, Shadow tearing free. The mercenary fell limp, breath ragged, gun skidding away into the darkness. Silence crashed back. Only rain, fire, and Lily's sobbing breaths filled the clearing. Noah crouched, breathing hard. Blood dripped from a cut along his temple, but his eyes were clear. Shadow trotted back to Lily, muzzle stained, tail high. He pressed his body against her chair, protective. Lily flung her arms around the dog's neck, sobbing into his fur. "He saved me! Shadow saved me!" Noah wiped the blood from his brow with the back of his hand. He knelt beside her, voice steady despite the adrenaline. "He saved both of us." Shadow licked Lily's cheek once, then sat tall, ears still pricked toward the forest as if daring anyone else to come. Noah checked the bodies quickly. 2 were dead. The leader was unconscious, bleeding heavily. Supplies rattled in their packs, ammo, food, a map half soaked with rain. Noah took what they needed, then dragged the bodies deeper into the trees. He didn't want Lily to see more than she already had. When he returned, she was still crying softly, her hand tight on the bracelet. The charm glinted faintly in the firelight. "Is it always like this?" she asked. He exhaled slowly. "Not always, but when it is, you don't think. You just do what you must." Her lips trembled. I thought miracles were quiet, like stories." Noah looked at her, at Shadow, at the still burning fire that hadn't gone out despite the rain. His voice was rough, but certain. "Sometimes miracles are loud, sometimes they growl." Shadow's ears flicked at his name, and his tail tapped once against the dirt. The adrenaline drained. Noah cleaned Shadow's muzzle with water from his canteen, murmuring praise as he worked. The dog leaned into his touch. Calm now, job done. Lily watched them with wide eyes. She whispered, "He's not just a dog, he's something more." Noah smiled, faintly, fingers ruffling Shadow's fur. "He's family." The word sank into the quiet, heavier than rain, warmer than fire. Later, when the fire burned low and the forest grew still again, Lily whispered something else. "Noah? Yeah? You said you lost something once. Was it your family?" His jaw clenched. He stared into the dying flames for a long time before answering. "My daughter." Lily's eyes widened. She wanted to ask more, but his silence told her enough. Instead, she reached out and placed her small hand over his. "Then maybe I can be your family now." The words shattered something inside him. He bowed his head, hiding his face, but his hand squeezed hers back, strong and steady. Shadow shifted closer, leaning against both of them. And in that fragile circle of warmth, child, soldier, dog, the storm outside no longer mattered. The fire dwindled to ash by dawn. A cold grey mist crawled low across the forest, muffling sound, swallowing shapes. Noah sat with his back against a tree, rifle across his knees, Shadow asleep at his boots. His eyes refused to close. Every crack of a branch could mean more of them. Lily stirred in her chair, blinking at the pale light. Her hair stuck in damp curls around her face. The foil blanket clung to her shoulders. The bracelet gleamed faintly on her wrist. She rubbed the charm as soon as she woke, her small ritual. "Morning," Noah said quietly. She smiled weakly. "You didn't sleep." "Didn't need to." Shadow lifted his head at Noah's voice, ears pricking before settling again. Lily studied Noah's face. The bruise on his temple had darkened, and deep lines carved themselves under his eyes. He looked carved from stone, immovable, unbreakable, but she sensed the cracks under the surface. When Noah rose to check the perimeter, Lily pulled her chair closer to the embers. Her fingers brushed over something half buried in the mud nearby. She bent, tugging it free. It was a small doll, soaked, its yarn hair clumped with dirt, its button eye hanging by a thread. Her breath caught. "Mum made me one like this," she whispered. She turned the doll over, tears stinging her eyes. For a moment she saw herself years earlier, before her legs stopped working, before storms and empty roads. She and her mother sewing together, her small, clumsy stitches beside her mother's neat ones. Noah returned and saw the doll in her hands, his face stilled. "You dropped it?" he asked. She shook her head. "It was here." He crouched, mud staining his knees, and reached out. Gently he plucked the doll from her hands. The fragile toy sagged in his palm. His thumb brushed over the broken button eye. Something shifted in his expression. A shadow of memory. "My daughter had one," he said finally, voice low. "Almost the same. Her name was Elena. She lost it once in a flood. I carried her through waist-deep water, doll clutched above my head like it was made of gold." She laughed the whole time. His eyes glazed, his hand tightened around the doll until mud squeezed from its seams. "Oh, what happened to her?" Lily asked softly. Noah didn't answer at first. He stared past her, jaw clenched. "She and her mother, they didn't make it when the village was hit. I was gone. I wasn't there to stop it." The silence after the confession pressed heavy. Lily's voice shook. "You think it was your fault?" He met her gaze. The weight of years of guilt burned there. "Because it was." Lily's eyes filled. "But you saved me. You and Shadow. If you hadn't come—" Her voice broke. "Maybe that's your miracle. Maybe I am." The words pierced Noah's armor. His chest rose and fell, his throat tight. He wanted to deny it, to push away the hope. But Shadow nosed his hand, grounding him, as if the dog agreed with Lily. Noah swallowed hard and returned the doll to her lap. "Then hold on to it, for both of us." They moved again that day. The forest seemed endless, the road fractured by storm. Noah carried Lily when the chair stuck, his muscles burning with each step. Shadow ranged wide, alert to every rustle. At midday they reached a clearing. The storm had uprooted trees, creating a field of splintered trunks. They crossed carefully, the broken doll tied to Lily's blanket so it wouldn't fall. Halfway across, Noah froze. He dropped to a crouch, scanning the edges. "What is it?" Lily whispered. He raised a hand for silence. A faint metallic click echoed from the tree line, the sound of a weapon being readied. Shadow's hackles rose instantly. His body leaned forward, silent, every sense alive. Noah cursed under his breath. He pushed Lily's chair behind the trunk of a fallen pine, then slid down beside her, rifle raised. "Stay low," he whispered. Lily clutched her bracelet, tears slipping down her face. The doll dangled at her side, mud dripping from its yarn hair. A shadow moved at the edge of the clearing. Then another. Figures, more than one. They're still hunting us, Noah murmured. His eyes sharpened, calculating. But they don't know how stubborn I can be. Shadow pressed against his leg, waiting for the signal. The forest held its breath. The figures lingered just beyond reach, as if testing how far Noah would go. Lily whispered, "You promised me family, don't let them take it away." Noah turned, meeting her tearful gaze. He reached out and pressed his scarred hand over hers. His voice came like iron wrapped in fire. "They won't." The doll slipped from Lily's lap, falling into the mud. She reached for it, but Noah caught her wrist. "Leave it," he said. His eyes burned with a memory and a vow. "This time, I don't drop what matters." The wind shifted, branches cracked, the hunt was closing in. The wind shifted first, low and restless, tugging at the treetops. Then the rain came. Back, light at first, then harder, hissing against mud and broken bark. Noah steadied his rifle, eyes locked on the shadows moving along the tree line. They were patient hunters. They hadn't fired yet. That meant they wanted Lily alive. Shadow crouched low, fur bristling, every line of his body coiled. A growl vibrated deep in his chest, low thunder beneath the storm's rising pitch. Lily's fingers clamped on her bracelet. The charm cut her skin, but she didn't let go. Her doll lay in the mud a few feet away, yarn hair plastered with rain. She stared at it, heart aching, but Noah's warning echoed, "Don't drop what matters." She pressed her palm over the bracelet instead. The first shot cracked through the clearing. Bark splintered inches from Noah's head. "Down!" he barked. He shoved Lily's chair deeper behind the fallen trunk, shielding her with his body. Bullets shredded wood above them. Shadow launched forward, teeth bared, darting between trees like lightning in fur. His speed drew fire away from the log. Noah used the split second to return fire, dropping one silhouette with a sharp burst. Another shot screamed past. Lily gasped, ducking low. The sound of boots squelching in mud came closer. "They're flanking," Noah muttered. His eyes flicked to Lily. "Listen to me. Don't move. Don't make a sound. I'll handle this." Her voice shook. "You promised." "I don't break promises," he said, and was gone before she could protest, moving low and fast into the storm. Lily clamped her hands over her ears as the firefight erupted. Gunshots cracked like thunder. Shadows snarled. Men shouted in pain. The rain made everything blur, sound, vision, even thought. Through the chaos, she whispered to herself, "Miracles are loud. Sometimes they growl." Noah burst from behind a trunk, slamming one man into the mud, knife flashing. The mercenary screamed before going silent. Noah spun, firing into another silhouette, trying to circle toward Lily. Shadow intercepted a third, jaws locking on the man's wrist, dragging him down with terrifying precision. But there were too many. Shapes kept moving in the storm, eyes glinting, rifles sparking. Noah's shoulder burned where a bullet grazed him. He gritted his teeth and pressed on. He dropped one, then another. But the leader stepped forward, different from the rest, taller, armored, weapon steady. His shot rang out and Noah staggered, blood soaking his sleeve. "Noah!" Lily's scream pierced the storm. Noah hit one knee, forcing himself up. His vision swam, but he raised the rifle again. The leader's smile was cruel, visible even in the rain. "You can't win," the man shouted. "Give us the girl." Noah spat blood, steadied his aim. "Over my dead body!" The leader raised his gun, finger tightening on the trigger. Shadow came out of nowhere, slamming into the man's chest, teeth sinking deep. Both tumbled into the mud. The leader cursed, firing wildly, bullets cracking through the storm. Noah crawled, ignoring the pain, knife flashing once, twice. The man went limp. Shadow pulled free, blood streaking his muzzle, chest heaving. He limped, but stood tall, eyes still blazing. The gunfire thinned. The last mercenaries broke, vanishing into the storm. Silence returned, broken only by Noah's ragged breaths and the storm's fading growl. He dropped beside Lily's chair, pressing a hand to his bleeding arm. "You're hurt!" she cried, tears streaking her rain-soaked cheeks. "I've been worse," he said through clenched teeth. He checked her over quickly. "You!" She shook her head, sobbing. "I thought I thought you'd leave like everyone else. His eyes softened despite the pain. Lily, look at me. She did. I told you I don't break promises. Shadow staggered closer, collapsing against Noah's side. His fur was soaked, blood mixing with rain. Lily reached out, wrapping her arms around the dog's neck. You saved me, she whispered, pressing her face into his fur. You're my miracle. Shadow's tail thumped once, weak but certain. Noah tied a strip of cloth tight around his wound. He forced himself to his feet, gripping Lily's chair. His voice was iron again, even as his body faltered. We move, he said. In this storm? Lily asked, wide-eyed. Yes, Noah replied. Storms pass, but if we stay, more will come. He pushed the chair forward, every muscle screaming, Shadow limping at his heel. Lily clutched her bracelet, then leaned forward and whispered, almost to herself, Please, God, one more miracle. The storm began to break. Clouds tore open just enough to spill pale light across the ravaged clearing. Rain slowed to a drizzle. For a moment, the world looked almost peaceful. Bodies lay in the mud, steam rising from their blood in the cold. The doll lay where Lily had dropped it, one button eye gone, but still intact. Noah paused, bent, and picked it up. He pressed it into Lily's hands. We don't leave what matters, he said, voice hoarse. She hugged the ruined doll to her chest, tears mixing with rain. They moved on, step by step, into the thinning storm. Noah's blood stained the path, but his grip on the chair never loosened. Shadow limped, but refused to fall behind. Behind them, the thunder rolled one last time, fading into silence. Ahead, the faint line of rooftops showed through the mist. A village. Lily gasped. People? Yes, Noah said, voice breaking with exhaustion but steady. We made it. By the time they reached the outskirts of the village, Noah's body was on fire. Every step felt heavier, his wounded arm throbbing under the soaked bandage. Still he pushed Lily's chair with unshakable resolve. Shadow limped at his side, fur matted with dried blood, yet his head stayed high. He glanced often at Noah, then at Lily, as if to remind them, I'm still here. We're all still here. The road sloped downward into a cluster of weathered houses. Smoke curled weakly from chimneys. The sight should have been comforting, but Noah's instincts never softened. Villages could hold safety or betrayal. He stopped at the edge of the road, scanning. No movement, no voices, just the wind whistling through broken shutters. We're close, he said, kneeling beside Lily. His voice cracked with fatigue. But I need you to stay sharp. Not everyone is a friend. Lily nodded. She gripped her bracelet, her face pale but determined. I'm not afraid anymore, not with you. The words struck deeper than the wound in his arm. They found shelter in an abandoned house at the edge of the village. The roof leaked, but the walls stood firm. Noah lowered Lily gently onto a pile of blankets he scavenged. Shadow curled protectively against her side. When Noah tried to rise, dizziness nearly toppled him. Lily gasped, reaching out. Noah, you're bleeding worse. He waved her concern away, but blood seeped through his sleeve faster than before. He sank onto the floor, back against the wall, face pale. Lily's heart pounded. She had seen him unstoppable, iron against bullets, unflinching in storms, but now he looked human. Too human. You saved me, she whispered, tears in her voice. Now let me save you. He tried to smile. You already did. She tore a strip from the hem of her blanket, her small fingers trembling as she tied it tighter around his wound. He hissed, but didn't stop her. I'm no doctor, she said. You don't need to be, he murmured. Sometimes all someone needs is for another person not to give up on them. Her tears fell onto his hand. She pressed it between hers, her bracelet charm clinking softly. You won't give up on me, she said. Never, he vowed. Hours passed. Outside, the storm faded into silence. Lily dozed against Shadow's warm body, her ruined doll clutched tight. Noah forced himself to stay awake, but the haze of pain dragged him into memories. Elena's laughter in the flood, his wife's gentle voice, the day everything was torn away, the guilt that never left. But now, Lily's face, whispering, "You're my family now." The words haunted him, but not with pain, with possibility. Noah stirred awake at the sound of footsteps outside. Shadow was up instantly, a silent guardian. Noah lifted his rifle, though his hands shook. A figure appeared at the window, just a villager holding a lantern, a woman, her eyes wide with concern. "You need help," she said softly when Noah opened the door, her gaze flicking to his wound, then to Lily. "Come, we'll take you in." Noah's instincts screamed caution, but Lily tugged his sleeve. "Please, we can't do this alone forever." He studied the woman. There was no greed in her eyes, only compassion. Finally, he nodded. They were led deeper into the village. People gathered, worn faces, tired children, weary men. But when they saw Lily's wheelchair, their expression softened. A boy brought her bread. An older man offered Noah bandages. Shadow lay at Lily's feet, tail thumping as children reached out to pet him. For the first time, Lily laughed, a small, broken laugh, but real. Noah watched, leaning on his rifle like a cane, his chest tightened. This felt like the thing he had lost. That night, they sat near the village fire. The flames painted Lily's face in gold. She looked at Noah, then at Shadow, then back again. "We're family now," she said, voice certain. "Not just because you saved me, because we belong." Noah's throat tightened. He tried to speak, but his voice failed. Instead, he reached into his sleeve, pulling out the locket he had kept hidden for so long. He opened it, showing her the small picture inside. A girl with bright eyes, his Elena. "This was my family," he said. "I thought I'd never have another." Lily's eyes shone. She reached out, laying her doll beside his locket. "Now you do." Shadow leaned against them both, warm and solid. Noah closed the locket, his scarred hand covering Lily's. "Then I swear, from this day on, you're not alone, ever." Later, when the fire burned low, Lily whispered something to Shadow as she drifted to sleep. "Thank you for bringing him to me." Shadow's tail tapped once in reply. Noah watched them both, a soldier broken and rebuilt, and whispered into the night, "Second chances, that's the miracle." The village around them breathed with quiet hope. The storm was gone. But the bond forged in it, the soldier, the girl, and the dog, was unbreakable. The first light of dawn stretched pale across the village, turning the soaked rooftops into mirrors of gold. Smoke curled lazily from chimneys, carrying the smell of bread and wood fire. For the first time in days, the air was calm. Lily stirred awake in her chair, Shadow still curled protectively at her feet. She blinked, the memory of storms and gunfire chasing her, until she saw Noah leaning against the doorframe nearby, bandaged arm resting across his chest. "You stayed," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Told you I would." Shadow lifted his head at her voice, stretching before pressing his muzzle gently into her hand. She laughed softly and hugged him, burying her face into his damp fur. The villagers had already begun their morning tasks. A woman brought Noah a steaming cup of broth, her eyes warm with gratitude. Children peeked around corners, whispering about the soldier and his dog, daring each other to inch closer to the legendary German shepherd. Noah accepted the drink with a nod. "You've done more than enough," he told the woman. She shook her head. "Not enough for what you've been through, but it's what we can do." He glanced at Lily, who was busy showing her broken doll to a curious little girl from the village. Lily's laugh, bright and unguarded, rang through the morning. For Noah, it was worth more than food or shelter. Later, they sat together near the central fire pit. Lily rubbed her bracelet between her fingers, staring into the flames. "Noah," she asked, voice hesitant. "What happens now?" He studied her. The soldier in him wanted to list logistics, routes, supplies, threats. But the man who had lost everything and somehow found something again knew that wasn't the question she was really asking. He crouched beside her, resting his good hand over hers. "Now," he said, "we build again. Not what we lost, but something new." Her eyes shimmered. "Like a family." "Exactly," he whispered. Shadow barked once, tail thumping the dirt, as if sealing the vow. That night, as stars spilled over the dark sky, Noah sat with the locket in his hands. The picture of Elena stared back at him, frozen in time. His chest ached, but this time the ache wasn't just grief, it was also gratitude. He looked at Lily, asleep by the fire, her ruined doll hugged tight, shadows sprawled across her legs. She looked peaceful, safe, exactly what he had sworn she would be. Noah closed the locket, pressing it to his chest. "Thank you," he whispered to the night, to the storm, to the God he hadn't spoken to in years. The following days became routine. Noah helped villagers repair fences, chopped wood with his good arm, and stood guard at night. Lily played with the children, laughed more each day, and told stories about Shadow's bravery until the villagers treated the dog like a guardian spirit. Shadow basked in the attention but never left Lily's side. He guarded her at night, followed her chair in the day, and slept only when her breathing was steady. Each evening, Lily would whisper into the fire, "Thank you for giving me a second chance." And Noah knew she wasn't just speaking to him, she was speaking to heaven too. One morning, Lily tugged Noah's sleeve. "Do you think my mum sees us?" He followed her gaze skyward. The dawn was breaking, clouds glowing pink and gold. For the first time in years, Noah felt warmth in the sky instead of emptiness. "Yes," he said firmly. "She sees us, and she's proud." Lily smiled, touching her bracelet. "Then we're not broken anymore." Noah's throat tightened. "No," he agreed softly. "We're not broken. We're building again." Shadow pressed against them both, tail sweeping the earth like a silent promise. That evening, as the fire burned low and the village quieted, Lily whispered her final question. "You won't ever leave me, right?" Noah knelt, his scarred hand covering her small one. His voice was steady, fierce. "Never. You're my family now." Shadow's ears flicked, and he let out a soft bark, as if to echo the vow. Lily leaned forward, resting her head against Noah's chest. His good arm wrapped around her gently, protectively. For the first time in years, he didn't feel hollow. He felt whole. As dawn broke again, painting the sky in gold, Noah stood at the village edge with Lily in her chair and Shadow at his heel. The road stretched before them, unknown but promising. "We don't erase the past," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "We carry it, and we use it to build the future." Lily squeezed his hand. "Together." "Together," Noah agreed. Shadow barked once, sharp and joyful. And so the soldier, the paralyzed little girl, and the loyal dog stepped forward, not into another storm, but into a new beginning.